Welcome to Inside Influence, the show where we talk to B2B marketing insiders about what's working and what's not in the world of influencer marketing. I'm your host, Lee Oden, CEO and co-founder of Top Rank Marketing. And today we're talking with Srijana Angdembey, Director of Social Media at Oracle, or Oracle CX Cloud more specifically. Welcome, Srijana.
Hi, Lee. Thank you so much for having me.
It's great to see you. So let's get started. Tell us a little bit about your work at Oracle.
So as you mentioned, I lead social media marketing for Oracle Customer Experience, and that really includes our marketing, our sales, our service, our commerce, and our CPQ solutions. And I also lead influencer marketing. I'm part of the Gen marketing team. And yeah, we have a small team, small but mighty team, and we make things happen.
Yeah, small but mighty seems to be the word of 2020 for marketing teams.
Yeah.
So you mentioned, of course, influencer marketing. How did you first start working with influencers, and how would you say it's changed since then?
The funny thing is I actually started in policy and working with politicians and policymakers. I was doing government affairs. And to me, I feel like I've always worked with influencers. I've always kind of known who were the people of influence or who could influence things and to accomplish my goals. So I feel like, I was, when I jumped in this role in CX marketing, it just so happened that, I also got influencer marketing, but, I felt very natural coming into it. I think, the way things have changed now from when I started, I would say is, influencer marketing was very much for B2C. And now we're seeing more B2B companies really embracing it. And I think that's been like the major change that I've seen.
Yeah, for sure. There's definitely been a lot of growth. And we uncovered the high degree of confidence around that growth in the research report, the 2020 State of B2B Influencer Marketing, where you were named as one of the top 20 influencer marketing professionals. So congrats on that. And I'm curious, what do you think it takes to be at the top of your game when it comes to influencer marketing for B2B?
That was a complete surprise. Here we are, heads down, working, not really thinking about this, but thank you so much. Quite an honor to be listed. I would say, what does it take? I would say you have to be really good at catching trends and being able to also roll with changes. There's things happening. We're living in a very fluid situation, as you can see. And I think with just like any other marketing, with influencer marketing, you just have to be able to catch those trends. You have to be able to change your strategies, tweak them accordingly. And I think that's what it takes. I don't know that I would say I'm at the top of my game, but I've noticed that, that's what's required.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, today's environment it includes all kinds of challenges.
Right.
Speaking of which, what do you think some of the top challenges are, posed by the pandemic when it comes to working with B2B influencers?
Honestly, I wouldn't say that I've seen any, or it's not so much of a challenge.
Mm-hmm.
We definitely had to tweak our strategy because we also rely on influencers for our event marketing, for example. We worked with Matt Hines on this roadshow that we did, which was awesome. And so we were continuing to do something similar this year, right? Before the pandemic. But when this hit, we realized that, okay, we have to really pivot. And then so we thought about, we're doing all these virtual shows and we're including influencers or hosting and attending, speaking, all that was fine. But we were also thinking like, how can we really be more helpful and make our content more relevant for our audience right now? And I think that, that was like, that I wouldn't say so much of a challenge, but that was sort of like the guiding principle behind picking up influencer marketing this year, and really seeing and working with those influencers who kind of got that. And realizing also, like, we are in this industry, we're friends, and realizing that influencers were more accessible now, and also that maybe more available to work, and to make sure that we have that equal partnership and equal value partnership, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
So we're not taking advantage of them, and also being able to get something done that was of value for our audience.
Yeah, for sure. So according to the research in that 2020 State of B2B Influencer Marketing Report, 74% of the marketers agreed that influencer marketing can improve customer and prospect experience, which of course is important because CX is a huge area of focus in B2B for virtually every B2B brand. And I'm curious what you think, what ways do you think influence plays a role in customer experience?
Gosh, I think when I think of influencer marketing, and the first thing I think about is trust. And trust, which is the currency that makes the experience economy go round, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we're all trying here to be more human in our approach to marketing. We're trying to be more come across as more friendly, and not trying to push our solutions and products as much. But how do we do that? And I really think that influencer marketing helps fill that gap, because now we're working with individuals that our audience trust, and they look up to as experts. And so I think that's the key. I think that's how it drives customer experience. And other things like working on anything, content marketing or events marketing, any of those with influencers, it just helps build that the trust factor. And also I would say more on the what's the word that I'm looking for? I'm totally blanking right now.
Credibility.
Credibility. That's what I meant. Like, that adds to that credibility, and authentic. It makes everything so much more authentic.
Yeah, spot on. Yeah, absolutely. So speaking of spot on, can you share a spot on example of a successful influencer marketing engagement that you've implemented? Like, what was the approach? What did it achieve?
Oh my gosh, there's been so many, but one that was totally on the fly, and something that we hadn't really planned but was fun, was in 2018. It was around the holiday season, and we thought, what could be a fun thing we can do, a fun campaign for the holidays? It was totally last minute too, by the way. And we were all kind of joking around about all the marketing that we see during the holiday season, right? And as marketers ourselves, we kind of realize that some of this might be pushing it too much, right? There's like the holiday marketing copies, and I mean, everything it's a little bit too much. So we thought, wouldn't it be fun, like, if you asked marketers what they found was totally cringeworthy about holiday marketing? And so we reached out to Jay Bear, and with his Convince and Convert team, and where he did a survey. He reached out to his audience of marketers and did a survey on it, and we created a really fun ebook. We have an in-house marketunist, Brian Pope, who created these awesome cartoons out of them. And the result was like hilarious. And I have to say that it was one of our highest downloaded content in 2019. Totally unexpected. Even after the holidays, it was being downloaded. I think we saw like at least 3 times return on our investment there.
That's great.
Yeah, so that's something that comes to mind right now.
Yeah. There's something to be said, for the content itself, the content format itself, that, the third-party credibility and the trust of the influencers is one ingredient. But if you can if the content that they're a part of is something you wouldn't find elsewhere, something that's interesting, or, as I like to say, infotaining, entertain me a little bit, it really raises the bar and helps differentiate it quite a bit.
No, absolutely. I think you're right about the whole infotainment thing, and this is something that we're experimenting with right now. And if I don't mention this, Katie Martell might not like it very much, because we're working on what we're calling the Experience TV with Katie Martell, which is actually happening today as well at noon. Where we're making this whole idea of information into infotainment, where she has a talk show for 30 minutes where she's sharing research, and she's sharing like trend of the week and the topic of the week and advice, and she has a guest speaker to join, and it's all around the experience economy. And so it talks to CX practitioners in sales, in marketing, service, wherever, and provides shares challenges that we're all commonly facing, and also how do we then solve them. So it's really, really great. I'm really having fun with this right now with Katie. I think we all are.
Yeah, Katie's amazing. Yes, she's definitely a great person for that role. Absolutely. So in our research too, we also found that 96% of marketers that are implementing influencer programs, B2B, say that they are successful in some way. But even with that optimism, 60% say they don't have the skills in-house or the expertise to execute. I'm curious, what advice can you share for marketers that are considering working with influencers that aren't so confident yet?
Oh, wow. I think the first thing I would say is, you may not realize, but your company might already be doing some form of influencer marketing. And a lot of times I don't think people realize that. I know for sure, when I was doing influencer marketing here, initially at Oracle, I was surprised to find how many other people were already working with influencers. But maybe you don't have that strategy in place yet. And maybe not an official program yet. And I would say, just like anything, I think if you set your goals for working with influencers and what you're trying to achieve with your influencer marketing program, then you can start really slow and small. And it could be as easy as just reaching out organically and trying to build that relationship with an influencer. And I would say, that's where you start, and really start studying and understanding what if this is the right influencer that you want to work with. What content are they producing? Who are their audiences? How are they engaging with them? So
yeah,
I'd say start there.
yeah. You can crawl, walk, run.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, a lot of we found a pilot. Just the idea of pilot is something that resonates with a lot of people that want to dip their toe into the influencer marketing waters. It seems where they can do something that's organized, but working with people who they're already familiar with, and go through the exercise of identifying, co-creating, promoting, and measuring, and then get some data to use to then maybe decide what to change or what's working, and then really formalize the strategy after that.
Yes, absolutely. Start small. You'll get there.
Yeah, definitely. So B2B marketing and content expectations increasingly demand experiences, right? And that includes influencer content. And you were talking about the cartoons or the show that Katie's doing. What are you seeing besides that in terms of things like recorded and live video, stories, podcasts, even interactive content with influencers? I mean, whether it's your own company or somebody else, are you seeing interesting formats being published that includes influencers?
Definitely. TikTok is a great example, right? Just as far as pushing the boundaries of content. And that's another thing about working with influencers. I think they're so good at that. And maybe I have restrictions and boundaries to, for me, like maybe I don't have the resources in my company. And maybe I have brand guidelines that restricts me from doing certain form of content. So working with an influencer, I'm like loving what I see. Brian Fanzo, for example, he has such great stuff like with virtual events that he's doing. I love that. I mean, even even when working with Chef Hyken, for example, this year on one of our events, I was just blown away by the technology that he had and the availability to pull in things when he was speaking. He had slides up, and he had, like, the stats pop up, and I was so impressed, and I think that influencers know that the content needs to be very engaging, and it needs to hold that attention of the viewer. And I'm just finding that we're just getting more and more innovative, and as we are exploring more newer forms with new kinds of social media, for example, as I mentioned, it just pushes that boundary even more. And
Absolutely.
yeah. Sorry, I hope I answered your question.
Yes, you did. It was perfect. It was great because, we're really seeing a lot more interesting formats, but, like you say, your own marketing department may have constraints under which you have to operate, or you just don't have the staff that could do these very specific types of media creation. And you're seeing more and more B2B influencers bring creator capabilities that were more often found in B2C over into the B2B world, where they are savvy about ways to create interesting content experiences, right? And that way you can augment your own marketing with the outside expertise and the interesting media creation formats.
Absolutely. I totally 100% agree with that. And that's exactly how I usually, when I work with influencers, I give them the creative freedom, because I know, like, we have all these brand guidelines that we may not be able to do certain things.
Yeah. Yeah. What are some of the top challenges that you've experienced when it comes to working with influencers? Is there anything you'd recommend not doing?
Honestly, I would say that my top challenge was just getting internal buy-in in the beginning. We were so used to just inviting influencers to be part of our events and not really doing much else after. And so it really took a lot of time to convince people that this was actually a good, good investment.
Yeah.
But I would say honestly, I haven't really had any negative experience, because also I was very fortunate. Like, I walked in and we already had a great partnership with Jay Bear and his team, Convince and Convert, and they have really been the guiding like the guiding force, or if I have any questions, I can use them as sounding boards. I can bounce ideas off of them and really work as partners. So it has really helped. And I would say, if you sort of don't know whether or not you want to try something new, that's a great way to bring in influencers to help you brainstorm, to help you kind of give you the first pass, whether or not this is something that's viable or not.
Mm-hmm. I'm curious, what are some of the most important criteria that you've used to identify and qualify influencers as someone that you might want to work with? You talked about some of this already, right? That if they have interesting media creation skills, and what else are you looking for?
Honestly, my first criteria is whether or not our audience match, right? So my target audience has to be the audience that this influencer that I'm working with, that they are talking to as well. If there's a mismatch, then obviously it's not a good fit. And I think that, more than looking at social media followers or any of that, I think that, whether or not the audience trusts them and whether or not they're engaging with them in that way that you want them to, that's really key. And the other one is just making sure that you have the right goals in mind for that, what you want to achieve, that you can both come in terms and agree on that. So I'd say, definitely my first criteria is whether or not we have the same audience, and whether
Sure.
what I
Yeah.
want out of this is going to work.
Yeah. That audience match was actually the number one criteria in our research. Yeah. The top was audience match or audience alignment. So, okay, we have the right influencers and we implement a campaign. What are some of the measures of success for influencer marketing that are unique to just influencer marketing that you've used?
And this can depend on the campaign you're running. Um, if your campaign is purely demand gen, or driving people to your event or whatever it is, then obviously you have a different set of metrics you're looking for. You have your tracking in place, you're monitoring how many audiences they're able to pull in. But let's say you're just doing something like what we're doing with Katie, for example. If you're just doing things for thought leadership, or trying to create some fun content that would be good for your audience to build trust and confidence in your brand, then those things that are going to take longer and maybe a little harder to measure. Maybe not as clear as quantifying it with a number, X number or whatever. But for that, you need patience, and you really, that's where the always on influencer marketing comes in. And for that, you need more patience. I would say, that whole thing around confidence and trust and brand, basically brand awareness is something very unique to influencer marketing. The other things that we're working on is really on SEO, and making sure that we're working with influencers to help us with content to make sure that our content is more searchable. And we have this crazy goal right now with our new CMO to drive our traffic by 30% compared to last year. And everything is like, how do you drive more traffic to the website? And we have a great person on our content marketing team on a corporate side who is working with influencers on building that, making sure that we have those blogs and our content that we're working with an SEO strategy in mind.
Yeah, actually in our research, we found 50% of B2B marketers surveyed said they were integrating influence with SEO. And I think that this is an incredible partnership, because the topic specificity that you need to be aware of to find the right influencers is the same topic specificity that aligns with topic or keyword research one might do. And so you can have an idea of what's in demand. What are people actually typing into that box that aligns with the content that you're making or co-creating with those influencers?
That's absolutely correct. That's exactly how, we've been working on this.
Great. So what do you think is going to be different about influencer marketing for B2B companies post-pandemic? Do you have any predictions for the future?
No predictions, but I definitely don't think we're going back anytime soon to how things worked, or how we were doing things. One thing that this pandemic really did was make us all pause and kind of look at our marketing in more, more prescriptive way. Is this even going to add any value? I think even more so than ever, it kind of made that really clear to us. And I think even with influencer marketing, we became very, very, okay, is this person, what they're saying, is this aligned to our values and what we want? And post-pandemic, I think like that's going to continue. For example, we want to work with a diverse range of influencers, right? And maybe that was already top of mind before, but now it's even more top of mind because of the current situation.
Yeah.
So that's just something that I think of. I think we're just going to be more prescriptive on how we do things and who we align with, make sure that the person, is not just in what they're saying on social media, but also that they are good people to work with, right? That our customers really look up to.
Absolutely. Wow. Well, that went by fast. It's been great chatting with you. A lot of great insights. Clearly you are on the front lines of making some great influencer marketing happen. And so I really appreciate all the time you spent. So where can people find out more about you and your work?
Gosh, if you follow any of our social media channels, Oracle CX social channels, you can find me there, but also I blog on our modern marketing blog, and you can find me on LinkedIn.
Well, thanks for everything, Srijana. Appreciate it.